Hello and welcome to another pod bite from your favourites, Doctor Theatre's Cult Emporium. And we're here discussing the latest episode of Doctor Who Flux. This was episode 4, Village of the Angels. What do we think of Village of the Angels, Rob?
Well, I thought it was pretty much akin to old style Who, really, because we had a classic base on just siege scenario, didn't we? Which is where the series always seems to excel. Really, we Doctor Who's always done that siege scenario so brilliantly in the past, and this proved to be no exception, really.
Yeah, I mean, it is a period piece as well, and spooky and evocative. I'm sure some people will be making comparisons to their beloved Hinchcliffe era. So, it felt old school Who, and yet the cliffhanger, and yet still feeding into this big story of the Flux.
We've had a lot of questions, but not many answers at the moment, have we? So we've got kind of 2 episodes to wrap all these complex storylines up. Do you think he'll do it successfully? Do you think? Because I mean, he may resolve some stuff next week, and then because it's a bit much for one episode to resolve all this stuff, isn't it?
I mean, I am a bit worried that it might end up like the Timeless Children episode, where it was the Doctor standing around being talked at. You know, it was because it was Sasha's master had a lot of heavy lifting to do in that last episode. So there is that concern, but I think we're probably going to get a resolution to this immediate threat of the Flux. This galaxy-destroying event. I don't think we're going to get a resolution of the division stuff. I think that will be either continued at New Year on New Year's Day, or it might get postponed. Do
you think that's going to thread its way all the way through to Jodie's final appearance?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the New Year's Day special takes a break. I'm not saying does a Feast of Stephen and they go like running around a movie studio for an hour, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get some Daleks or something at New Year, and then we'll pick up.
I kind of am fully expecting Daleks at New Year. It seems an obvious ratings puller, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the substance of the episode. And first of all, I'm going to say, I'm not bright enough. But I'm very much a style over substance person. If you get me with mood and tone and atmosphere and performance, I sort of overlook the logic holes. So I've seen a lot of people online saying, "Well, why didn't they realise that if 2 of them are looking at an angel at the same time, that means one can blink while the other one can." You know, there were people that were sort of poking holes in the logic of it. I just went with it. I just thought it was so.
I think you've got to with a lot of this science fiction drama, because if you start to join the dots and say, well, they couldn't do this because of that, and they couldn't do this because of that, you kind of got no story, have you? So you've if they can take the weeping angels, believe in weeping angels, they can believe in a few of the pop jumps. That's what I always think.
So we're introduced to Professor Jericho, played
Eustachius Jericho,
played by Kevin McNally, making his return to Doctor Who, having previously appeared in the Twin Dilemma, the classic.
Yes, I think basically his agent said to him, "Look, you've got Doctor Who on your CV, but it is the Twin Dilemma. We're going to have to upgrade you a little bit on this." So he said, "Go and do something with a bit more worth to it."
It reminded me a little bit of the setup in. Do you remember Hyde in the 50th anniversary season?
Yes, yeah.
Which had got De Grey Scott paired with I want to say Verity Lambert, but the actress from Call the Midwife that was also in Adventure in Space and Time. It gave me a remembrance of that, and we were reintroduced to what's the character's name?
Claire Brown.
Claire Brown, that's the one. Yeah, who we saw previously in episode 1 outside the football stadium in Liverpool.
That's right. Yeah, and I don't know whether we'll see her again. Probably we will.
And I misread that, because I thought that she'd already met the Doctor, but it turns out that she's a seer and she's having these premonitions, and and she's actually being controlled by an angel. She's got we've had this line before about the weeping angels, how image of an angel can become an angel. She's got an image of an angel in her mind that has manifested, which is a very kind of creepy idea. And I thought when the Doctor did her contact shtick and went into her memories, that was really kind of well shot and stylishly presented.
The whole episode is very stylish, I thought.
Yeah. And then Dan and Yaz are now trapped in 1901.
Yeah, and so is Professor Jericho, along with little Peggy.
Yeah. And we saw a new side to the Weeping Angels, in that they you can send someone back once, and then after that, if you touch them again, you seemingly turn to stone and explode. Yeah. It's not a pretty fate. So yeah, I thought it's hard to sort of talk about it beat for beat, because just so much was, as you say, so much was going on. But I thought,
it's all this talk of quantum extraction, wasn't it?
And the Weeping Angels have been deployed by the division, which kind of gives them a purpose. So I don't know if all Weeping Angels that we've encountered have been somehow division sanctioned, or it's just that a group of them were. But it seems like we've met several different races now that have all been in the employ of the division, haven't we?
Yeah, and what I just want to say about the Weeping Angels is that I think this was the most satisfying appearance of the Weeping Angels since the original Blink, because we've had them in is it Time of the Angels or one of those? Yeah, and Angels.
How long ago that?
Take Manhattan.
Yeah. Do you know how long ago that the last Angel story was? The one that Angels Take Manhattan. That was 9 years ago. The last time that we had a Angel story.
But I have to say that it was kind of getting to be diminishing returns with the Angels a little bit. But this is kind of almost restored them to their Blink glory, I think. Yeah,
I mean, well, it was a bit Ghostbusters by the end, because it was the Statue of Liberty, you know.
Yeah. It turned out in that story that any statue could be a weeping angel.
I think this is the rule of thumb with most Doctor Who villains, is that sometimes you need a break and time away, and just to think about them. And we've already said this, haven't we, about the Sontarans?
True.
So you can see that Chibnall is sort of has been latching on, has been looking at some core principles and being like, what actually makes this villain good? You know, what makes them tick? Why are they scary? Why are they a foe? And taking them back to first principles.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was all that action on Pisano as well, where Bell meets Namaka, I think his name was. Which is Neil from The Inbetweeners, with his new teeth. Don't you just love his new teeth? How fabulous are they? And it turns out that Azure has come. There's all these refugees arriving on Pisano, and Azure turns up with the passenger form and promises them to take them away to safety. But of course, she's imprisoning all of them. And
very, very biblical image of being on top of that mountain.
And Belle kind of rescues Namaka, doesn't she?
Indeed. Which he's not too pleased about.
No, initially not. But then when we get to the mid-credit sequence, he says, she saved my life. So whether we'll be seeing more of him, because it seems a kind of quite small role for somebody like him, really. So maybe next week we will be seeing more of Namaka on Pisano.
Well, we'll be seeing the return of Vinder's former boss. I forget the character's name now.
The Grand Serpent.
The Grand Serpent. I'm glad somebody can remember. And the return of Kate Lethbridge-Stewart. By the way,
yes, which I'm surprised they spoiled in that little trailer for us. But I'm kind of like that with Kate Lethbridge-Stewart. Not too sure about her as a character in the piece.
Well, we'll get to see. I suppose this might mean the restoration of UNIT, but
you would hope so, or maybe lead to the restoration of UNIT, perhaps.
Yeah, or I'd quite like it, given we're dealing with a galactic threat. Maybe she's joined the British rocket group from Quatermass and remembered to the Daleks. Maybe she's changed allegiances. So just a word, something that I've been reading online and has been winding me up a little bit is people sort of speculating about how Chris Chibnall is going to leave the table for Russell T Davies with the Timeless Child. It was sort of saying, are they going to completely erase all of this? And they may very well do that. But at the same time, they don't have to, because all of this new backstory for Doctor Who is, I could write a Jodie Whittaker story now, and I don't have to mention the Division or the Doctor's backstory. You don't talk about where the Doctor comes from every week. So you could leave all of this in place, that the Doctor had this secret life pre first.
Nor should it inform all episodes, really, because part of the series' great structure is that it can go anywhere at any time, and it doesn't always have to be linked to the Doctor's past. She should just be able to go somewhere and have an adventure.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the impending threat is resolved for Russell's era, he could just leave it in place and then just never mention it again, which is what he did when the series was relaunched. It's weird. People seem really preoccupied about setting the table, about leaving the lights on, and how the series, this Timeless Child arc, is going to be left. It could just be left there hanging. It's like the Doctor being half human. That was never resolved. It was just sort of left there hanging.
I think a little bit of resolution, I think, would be nice. It would be nice to be told whether it's all that stuff pre Hartnell is canon, or whether it's some fantasy, but then just leave it to be picked up as and when.
Anyway, we've got an interesting 2 weeks ahead. Fingers crossed.
Before we leave Village of the Weeping Angels, I just want to mention our mate Alex Frost, who appeared as a Reverend Shaw, albeit briefly, because he was the first to blink. And so it's always nice to see Alex on screen. I mean, I suppose taking holy orders is a step up from being bummed on cucumber and banana, which he was for Russell T Davies. So it's a step up from that. But it's a pity he blinks so soon. But I've got an idea, because I'm going to write to Big Finish or the BBC and tell them we've got to have the Reverend Shaw Adventures. And Alex will star in that.
Yes. Professor Jericho and Reverend Shaw, they could have their own little spin-off series. It could be like a spooky, a sci-fi version of Grantchester,
Could be. Loads of ideas there. And I dare say that Big Finish will get around to doing a box set shortly, because they seem to be covering every character they can.
So as we said as we've done in previous weeks, do you have any other reading, any additional reading, any further reading?
Well, I had prepared one, which seems quite timely, and it wasn't planned this way because I listened to it before the episode went out this week. And that's the new release by Big Finish of UNIT, with a new miniseries called Nemesis. And the first release in this miniseries is called Between Two Worlds. So you've got a box set of 4 stories called Between Two Worlds. And it centers really around a character they have created and has already faced the Eighth Doctor and the Sixth Doctor, and plus Unit have met him before, and that is a character called the 11. Have you heard of the 11?
I've heard of the 11.
Yeah,
I've seen him on the back pages of Doctor Who magazine, but I don't.
Oh, right.
Know who
well, the 11 is played by the wonderful Mark Bonner, and he is a Time Lord who has regenerative dissonance. That is to say that his previous 10 incarnations inhabit his personality at the same time. So you get Mark Bonner bringing in all the different incarnations, doing all the voices, and they chip in whenever they feel like it, and so he's truly loopy, and a fabulous performance always from Mark Bonner in that. So anyway, Unit find a stone arch in the sea in Scotland, just off the coast of Scotland, and it seems to be a portal. When they get it on land, they find it's a portal to another world or another dimension, and they activate it and go through, and there is the 11. Now, blah, blah, blah. Cut a long story short, they come back to the real world, but the 11 follows them and gets scattered somewhere or other. And it is all about trying to capture the 11, who is wants this stone archway, this portal for his own means. Then we go as part of this, and it's an oblique kind of tenuous connection, really. As you get into the story, we go to Australia, where there are ice warriors. The one place you wouldn't think there are ice warriors, but they're in Australia, and one particular ice warrior who's getting very, very hot under the collar, literally. So that's kind of nice to have the ice warrior pop up. Then we've got a kind of heist story in there, which is called 11's 11, where he's got a gang of thieves, and they're going to get this archway portal. But finally, in the final episode, they end up at the Undergallery, and waiting for them there is, of course, the curator, played by Tom Baker, and he has got a plan, because they know the 11 knows of where they've moved it to, and he's got a plan to keep this archway portal safe. And that's all I can tell you, because that's part of the story. But yeah, I mean, it's a great release. And of course, we've got Ingrid Oliver back as Osgood, which is always good value. I really like Osgood's character. And we have a recasting as well, because we've got Harry Sullivan coming back. Obviously, the late, great Ian Marter was Harry Sullivan, but this is what Big Finish do so well. They find somebody who can vocally not imitate as such, but find the essence of the character. And Christopher Naylor does that beautifully. You know, you soon forget it's not Ian Marter, and you accept it's Harry Sullivan back at Unit. So that's another great surprise. I don't think he has any scenes with Tom Baker's curator, which is a shame. But yeah, so you know, lots of things in the mix there. Fantastic box set. Unit Nemesis Volume 1, Between Two Worlds.
Sounds good. So my further reading is an episode, because I should recommend some horror film, The Wicker Man or something, another Sleepy Village, but I'm not a horror person. So I'm going to recommend an episode of Randall and Hopkirk Deceased, the 2001 vintage, the Vic Reeves
and Bob Mortimer era.
Which I think had a lot of charm. It was written by Charlie Higson of The Fast Show, who is a big sci-fi fantasy fan, and is now writing the young James Bond novels, and really should have had a crack at Doctor Who by this point, I think. But he, the last episode of the first series is called A Man of Substance, Series 1, Episode 6, and it sees Jeff. The living of the partnership is sent to a sleepy village called Hazel Rockstead to investigate the disappearance of a woman's husband, and then he finds that he can't leave. He keeps going to the bound. Everybody's acting a bit strange. He keeps going to the boundaries of the town and getting bounced back into the middle of the town. And it stars as the landlord of the local pub, Gareth Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
You've got Blake himself, and also Hugh Lloyd's in there as well. And everybody's acting a bit odd in this village. And then, of course, you've got Tom Baker himself as Hopkirk's mentor, ghostly mentor Wyvern. So I won't say any more than that. But it's another creepy village, but perhaps a bit more on the comedic side. But it's very much recommended. So
there we go. Randall and Hopkirk deceased. And what did you say the episode was called?
A Man of Substance.
A Man of Substance. There we go. Randall and Hopkirk deceased. Rebooted. A Man of Substance there. So there's nothing much happening in the Doctor Who world this week of great importance, really, except we go on the other side of the coin. We're going to have a quick update on what's happening in Star Trek Discovery, which came back to our screens pretty forcefully, I think. So what did we make of events there?
Yeah, season 4 of Star Trek Discovery has kicked off. So at the end of the last series, Burnham was made captain of Discovery, and the Federation, having now recovered from the burn, which destroyed all of the majority of the dilithium supplies, is now trying to rebuild and make connections. So we were introduced to some new cadets, and our crew, even though they are from the far-flung past, they're actually in a unique position because they've got this experience from when the Federation used to work, when it was powerful and existed. So they're being looked to as a flagship, really. And at the beginning, at the beginning of the episode, we see Captain Burnham and Book are trying to make new allies and are offering up dilithium. It all goes disastrously wrong, and they think they've got an angle. And then the wonderful thing at the end,
the butterfly people.
The butterfly people, and the wonderful thing at the end of the sequence is they still give them the dilithium, and they're like, well, why have you done this? And they're like, this is what we do. We're trying to make friends here. It's not like a tit for tat kind of situation. They just, they're trying to be good. Be good and strengthen connections. So they give this dilithium for free. And the main part of the story is there's some disaster is befallen a deep space repair station, so they're sent out. But I think the main thread of it is actually the president of the Federation is on board the Discovery as an observer. And there's a scene which is the reason why I watched Star Trek at the end of the episode, where Burnham and the president kind of have this conversation about the no-win scenario and the risk of being a captain, that weight of responsibility. So there's some good meaty stuff. And then the cliffhanger is that Book's planet Quajon has been destroyed by some kind of galactic disaster. We're not
Flux.
sure. The Flux, yeah.
The Flux is what it is.
Yeah, maybe the Flux has come into the Star Trek universe. Maybe it really is spanning different universes. So yeah, it's all very tantalizing. It's great to see Michael Burnham finally in the command chair, and we'll keep watching it.
They're reeling us back in, aren't they? With their tantalizing cliffhanger.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be long before we see Saru back as well, back on the main ship.
And it wouldn't be the same Discovery without Saru.
No, I mean we haven't. We haven't really been told who the first officer is. It's like there is a place there waiting for him. Like doesn't seem to have an executive officer at this point. So it's got to be Saru. And then also we can recommend a Star Trek documentary series that's just started.
Yes, we've watched a couple of those.
The Center Seat, which is 55 years of the Final Frontier or something. It's called The Center Seat. It's a 55 years of Star Trek celebration. It's in 7 parts, so it's the most comprehensive of these documentaries that we've ever had, really, because it looks like it's going to cover every era of the program. The first one went into a lot of detail about Desilu Studios and how Lucille Ball was instrumental in the creation of Star Trek, because we've always seen her logo of her studio, Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball, Desilu Studios, but I didn't realise how much of a stake she had in Star Trek, which I found fascinating.
Yes, it was. It was really interesting. And
then the second episode is about the animated series, which is a corner a corner of the Star Trek universe that rarely gets covered. So it's definitely recommended. It's from the same people who've done the movies that made us on Netflix. And it has that sort of irreverent tone. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And it's narrated by Dr. Crusher.
Yes, Gates McFadden.
Indeed.
Yeah, so lots happening in the Star Trek world, lots happening in the Who world, thank goodness. But I can't get my head around the fact we've only got 2 episodes left before the series is over. I mean, we've waited so long, and we're offered so little.
But at least it's good. At least it's good Doctor Who, and that's the message. It might be. For once, it definitely is quality over quantity, and I wouldn't have wanted them to have stretched their resources and for us to have a sort of lackluster series. And so far, I really rate every episode, and I can see myself going back to Flux quite a bit after the series. Maybe
some of the next 2 episodes would make us look at the previous episodes in a different light.
Yeah, indeed.
When we know the full scope of the story.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to be able to binge it. I can only get through a couple of episodes a day without, because I'm old, I fall asleep now at everything. But
you have to have your nana nap, don't you, love?
Yeah, but it'd be nice to watch, when it's all done. I've only really watched them once, so it'd be nice to watch all 6 in quick succession and see how they hold together as a story. Do
you think Bell and Insta are going to have Instagram? Vinder, yeah, Insta Van Vinder, Insta V Vinder. That's his name, isn't it? Instagram. I'm calling him. Do you think they'll have a happy ending? Do you think the rug will be pulled from underneath us, or are we going to get that whole Star Wars thing of everything's lovely?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I really hope that I can't see him putting a baby in danger like that. So I really like to see.
Well, maybe not the baby, but the father, maybe.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see when she gives birth to the baby doctor, the baby timeless child, or maybe it's a baby master. You never know. It could be, or it could just be a baby.
It could be. Oh well, we shall see next week. Survivors of the Flux. I'm not too sure what time it will be on, because it has been varying slightly, but we'll be there and we'll be back with our opinions. So. Have a good week out there in internet land, and we'll see you in 7 days' time. And here we go.